On a Friday, this is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live and loaded in Los Angeles on iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1, our best show of the week. Raider quarterback Derek Carr stops by. An hour from now, my best Blazing Five of the season. Feel absolutely great about that. Christine Leahy is out today, and if she's out, that means she was really, really sick. And Jason McIntyre, thebiglead.com, joining us from the news desk. All right. Did you watch the Lakers last night?
Did you?
I went to bed very early. I watched bits and pieces of a lot of things, but went to bed very early. Stayed away from. I'm done with the politics for a while. It's too negative.
Already?
Wears me out. It's too negative. Everybody's freaking out. It's like, you know what? I just want to live in this little sports thing right here. And today we're doing sports, and I'm excited for it. So let me start the show with this. Is that if you've listened to my show for years, you know I like business. I don't know that much about it, but I like it. I like talking about it. I like reading about it. I like participating in it. A lot of business people out there know a lot more than me, obviously, right? I'm not a business guy. I'm just a sports guy. But I like it, and I talk about it all the time. And I read books about it all the time. And one of the things through my years of broadcasting and in this business that I've noticed about like radio companies I've worked for and television companies I've worked for is that, do you have a vision? Don't try to appeal to everybody. Find your base and appeal to your base. And the easier it is to describe your vision, generally the better the company is. I mean, if I said to you, Apple, innovative. McDonald's, available. Facebook, connective. Southwest Airlines, efficient. Whole Foods, organic. I said this during the primaries. Bernie Sanders, socialist. It was really easy. Obama was change. Don't get too complicated. If something's too complicated, it's not right. I've been saying this for years about the Hall of Fame. If you can't describe your baseball career in a sentence, all-time hits king, best left-handed starter in the 70s, best closer of all time, Mariano Rivera. If I have to go by third in doubles, second in hit by pitches for a second baseman, you're not a Hall of Famer. You're just a compiler and a very good player. So this weekend, I was thinking, I looked at the NFL standings. There's two great games this weekend. Cowboys-Steelers, must watch. We have that one. And then there's Seattle and New England. That's the Sunday night game on NBC. But I was sitting there and I was thinking to myself this morning as I looked over the NFL standings about Seattle and New England. How many teams in the NFL can you look at the team and there's a word that describes it? And I think there's only three. And you could be negative, like obviously Cleveland is dysfunction. But I'm talking how many businesses, how many football teams in this league can you look at and give it a word and it kind of sums it up? New England, smart. They draft smart. They acquire smart. They coach smart. New England, smart. Pretty much wraps it up. Seattle, aggressive. Adderall. Penalties. Defense. Pete Carroll. He goes after aggressive players. The only other team in this league that to me has a one-word description, and it's positive. There's a lot of negatives. Kansas City Chiefs, my guy Andy Reid, steady. Seattle aggressive, New England smart, Kansas City steady. And that's not about the owner. That's about the coach. New England wasn't smart before Belichick. The Seahawks weren't aggressive before Pete Carroll. And Kansas City was the opposite of steady before Andy Reid. That's about the coach and the culture he creates. That's why I've said I don't understand why NFL teams don't go after Jim Harbaugh. I'd spend a fortune on Jim Harbaugh. Because Jim Harbaugh, the one word, Stanford, 49ers, Michigan, you know what it is, physical. I remember years ago, this is when Harbaugh took over Stanford. It was the second year, and they weren't great yet. And it was at the end of the second year, and I was talking to a coach in the Pac-12. And they weren't Stanford. This was when USC ran the conference. And Stanford wasn't good yet with Harbaugh. They were getting better. And he said to me, you know what? He goes, Stanford's the most physical team in the conference, even more than USC. He goes, they're the most physical team. He goes, they're not great yet. He goes, that's the most physical team we played. It's amazing how few teams, how few businesses in their NFL right now you can describe in a word. And those are the great businesses. One of the problems I've had with Arizona and Bruce Arians, I like their talent. What's the word? They don't have one. They're kind of lost right now. They want to be physical. They want to be explosive. Maybe there's limitations. They're kind of complicated offensively. I'll say this for the Dallas Cowboys. For years, their word was flashy, swag, stars, loud. Now look at their word. Patient, calm, protective. Think about the Raiders turning it around. For years, dysfunctional, impatient. Now it's youthful, energized, smart. So I think this weekend, when I watch Seattle and New England, and I would probably, it's not in my Blazing Five, I do like New England in this spot. Forget about the spread. And I do like Pittsburgh over Dallas. Forget about the spread. I think so much of what makes these games great, Seattle, New England this weekend, is the culture created by their visionary up front, Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick. So last night something happened, and it's not a small thing. It is a big thing. As you know on this show, I have defended the Kevin Garnetts and the Dwayne Wades and the LeBron James and the Kevin Durants, people that move upward mobility to other teams. I think I'd be a total hypocrite if you look at my career and say I'd be against athletes moving, but I can move. So Kevin Durant last night, he had a streak. Kevin Durant had scored 20 points in 72 straight games. Yeah. It was tied with Michael Jordan for the longest streak in the past 50 years. Last night, Kevin Durant could have surpassed Michael Jordan in the most 20-point games. But he came out with 18, only played 30 minutes. And as he came off the floor, Steve Kerr asked him, hey, you know about the streak? You want to break the streak? And Kevin Durant, with a chance to beat perhaps his legend, Michael Jordan, said, no, I don't care. Okay, here's Steve Kerr after the game last night.
I knew about the streak, and I told him that when he came off the floor, but I'm not going to mess with the basketball gods. If you want to leave a guy out there to get some kind of record, you're asking for an injury. So the game called for him to come out. He came out. He had no problem with it. I think, there's going to be a lot of that stuff this year. There's going to be, people talking about stats and records and who's scoring and who's not. And the only way that's going to work is if guys kind of throw that out the window. And that's exactly what KD said. He said, Coach, I don't care. It's no big deal. So, Steph lost his 3-point streak the other night, and KD lost whatever this streak was, and none of it matters.
None of it matters. Records are for losers. Wilt's got 1 million of them. Russell's got 11 titles. Kevin Durant left OKC for absolutely the right reasons. Not for the money, not for the points, not for the records. Wins and titles. When Kevin Durant scored less than 20 points, do you know what Oklahoma City's record was? 33-61. He had to score 20. He was tired of having to score to win. There's more to basketball than shooting. People are bashing Kevin Durant, and they're missing it. They're completely missing it. And by the way, when it comes to mobility, if we all stayed at the first place that hired us, most of us would still be working in fast food. The reality is that Kevin Durant made a courageous decision to leave and know he was going to be vilified. But he left to be less selfish. He left to not have to score 20. He left that he can score 30. By the way, his average has not dipped in Golden State, and his shooting percentage has gone up. But the media in this country had a really bad week. Remember? The media's missing it again. This was not the easy way out. It was the smart way out. Out of a selfish point guard to a team irrelevant of records. He doesn't care. And by the way, you know, Michael Jordan had the record and still does now. Do you know when Michael set that record? Like 87, 88, when the team stunk. And do you know who holds the record now for most 20-point games in a row? It's absolutely perfect. A guy who deeply cares about it. James Harden. Yep. Perfect last night. KD could have broken the record. Not interested. I didn't come here for records. Didn't come here for points. Didn't come here for money. Came here to win more basketball games. Love that. Just a little NBA story that means a lot.
Hey, sports fans, football season is here, and it's time to get in on the action. MyBookie.lv, an industry-leading website, is offering a 50% bonus when you join and deposit today. Are you sick and tired of getting the runaround when you ask for a payout? Come join MyBookie.lv. With decades of expertise, no hassle payouts, and no fine print, you'll experience the greatest customer service in the business, guaranteed. Did the game already start? Don't sweat it. MyBookie offers in-game live action on all your favorite sporting events. Call 844-900-2387 or visit us online at mybookie.lv to open an account and claim your 50% bonus. Pull out your smartphone to sign up with our user-friendly mobile site for adrenaline on demand. What are you waiting for? Get in the game. Call now to claim your 50% bonus before it's gone. That's 844-900-2387 or go online to mybookie.lv to open an account and start winning today. Only the biggest, only the best, only at mybookie.lv. Sign up today.
Listen, I root for stories. You know that. I root for stories. So when Brett Favre left Green Bay and went to Minnesota, right? Jets in Minnesota, it's a new story. I like that. When Dwayne Wade leaves Miami and goes to Chicago, that's a new story. I like that. LeBron goes to Miami. That's a new story. I like that. When Peyton Manning went to Denver, that's a new story. I like it. Now, I'm just a broadcaster. For a fan, it drives you crazy. But I like just new stories. I like new stuff. So Miami and Pat Riley, let's just talk about the business again. When he let Dwayne Wade go, it was the right move. Dwayne had been great, was 34, had won them titles. It was business. You can't pay somebody on what they did. You have to pay them on what they're doing or are going to do. Generally speaking, these moves are pretty obvious. I mean, Peyton Manning got hurt. Andrew Luck was in the offing. Peyton Manning's numbers, he threw 33 interceptions his last 2 years in Indianapolis. Still very good, but not quite Peyton Manning. It reminds me when Johan Santana left the Twins to the Mets. If you really paid attention, last 2 years in Minnesota, wasn't quite as dominating. Then he went to New York and was never the same guy. Peyton Manning then gets his surgery, goes to Denver, and he wins. But everybody's freaking out because this whole thing, D. Wade to Chicago, Peyton Manning to Denver, Brett Favre leaves Green Bay, we are staring at a Tom Brady situation. And I don't think it's that complicated. People are looking at Brady and going, oh, my God, what are you going to do? It's pretty obvious. Tom's 39. Now, he's never played better. He's going to be the MVP, and there's no erosion. So most people would say with Tom Brady, oh, my God, this is not a Peyton Manning situation. Tom's committed, better than ever, incredibly coachable. And Tom's not like your Kobe Bryant's or your Brett Favre's. He's not stubborn. He's not rigid. He's not entitled. He's not coming off multiple surgeries. So you can make the argument, you got to keep Tom. Playing great, 39. He's not stubborn. I'm not going to learn new offense. He's not beat up like Kobe. He's not entitled like some of the stars. And it seems really difficult, but it's not. It is not difficult. There's only one playoff win since 1950 from a quarterback that's 40 or older. And New England set up perfectly. This year, Tom's 39, no decision needed. Next year, Jimmy Garoppolo still under contract, no decision needed. The following year, 2018, Garoppolo's your guy. Can't pay both of them. Tom will be 41 end of next year. And he's getting to the Super Bowl this year. It will be a 7th. You're getting greedy if you get 8. But at this point, you got so much value out of Tom Brady. Don't worry about trading Garoppolo and getting pieces. You got Tom in the 5th round. He was free for the first 3 years. He was free. And even during much of his greatness, he's taken pay cuts. Pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered. The drop-off for old quarterbacks, never forget this, is sudden. Peyton Manning went from 55 touchdowns to 39 touchdowns to 9. Brett Favre went from 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions to 11 touchdowns and 19 picks. Brett Favre fell off a cliff. Peyton Manning fell off a cliff. Tom Brady is good now, and I think he's going to be pretty good next year. But this is not going to be a difficult decision. He is going to be at the end of next year. You're going to be looking at a 41-year-old quarterback for the following season. It's not tough. You think it's like the Peyton Manning. You're going to have to come to terms with this, though. And this is always the decision you have to make. Pat Riley had to make it in Miami. The Colts had to make it, and so did the Packers. You have to be comfortable when you let go of an aging star that he is going to win briefly elsewhere. Don't get paralyzed by that. Like, if you're going to break up with a beautiful woman, realize you're not the last guy she'll sleep with. You got to come to terms with that. That's the reality of divorce. If she attracted you, right, fellas? She's going to attract somebody else. So either move on emotionally or find someone else, but you can't be paralyzed by that. That's not a real world. If you're going to get rid of the star like Brady in 2 years, understand for 2 years, he's going to be ticked, want to beat you, and may beat you. Favre, Minnesota, Peyton, Denver, may beat you. But this league, pro sports, is about finding franchise guys in their athletic prime that you can ride for a decade or more. It won't be that tough of a decision. Hi, everybody. Perky Jerky came out with a bunch of new flavors that I think you should try. Jammin' Jamaican, Brewmaster's Pale Ale, and Barbecue with Soul, and that's S-E-O-U-L because it tastes like traditional Korean barbecue. What I love about Perky Jerky, the flavors pop. They're bold, and the jerky, you know this, really tender. For me, Brewmaster Pale Ale, fantastic. I mean, think about it. If beer and jerky go hand in hand, why not put the beer and the jerky in one? It's like a happy hour in a bag. To get your hands on this new flavor, hop on over to the Home Depot. Or if you'd rather shop online, go to perkyjerky.com. And don't forget to put the code in Colin. Also, if you love it, go to Twitter and say you love it, at Perky Jerky. Conor McGregor and Eddie Alvarez fight tomorrow in New York tomorrow night. It's going to be the biggest thing in Madison Square in 20 years. Sorry, hockey guys. It is. It's going to be incredible. So, I mean, part of the UFC is it is big. Okay, and the elite Northeast media, which had a bad week politically, it snubs their nose at UFC. It is too lowbrow for us. Well, Northeast media, you had quite a week. Pat yourself on the back. You're going to be wrong on this one, too. Young people that you don't hang with, like the UFC. So, Conor McGregor was 14 minutes late to the presser. Here's what happened when he showed up.
Sorry I'm late, I just don't give a
While you were on your way here, Eddie said he was disappointed in the country of Ireland. What do you think about that?
I don't give a what Eddie says. Who gives a The Irish are back. We've taken back control of New York City. I run New York City. I'm a pimp. Rocking Gucci mink. And without me, this whole ship sink.
Where were you? Why the lateness?
I operate on my time. I operate on my own time. And I'm running early on my time.
What does this fight mean for your legacy?
I'll be immortalized after this one.
I want an apology for saying my wife and kids.
Suck these big Irish.
Oh, boy.
Hey.
That's not great. So that is tomorrow, UFC 205.
Catch the Herd from noon to 3 Eastern on iHeartRadio and FS1.
Well, my staff has been making fun of me this year because I'm so excited about Derek Carr. And I said, I love football. And I see all these young quarterbacks come into the league and struggle. And then I watched Derek Carr, and he struggled initially. And then the last 2 years I've watched him, and I've said, we got our next Aaron Rodgers. We have our next franchise quarterbacks. The league's better when you have franchise quarterbacks. And my staff's like, slow down. I'm like, no, this kid is special. So I'm all excited today. Derek Carr, the Raiders quarterback, third season in the NFL, passed by every team in this league, a second-round pick, and Derek is now joining us. My producer was at the first NFL game you ever won. A lot of these young quarterbacks, Derek, you started 0-10. Okay, and so when I see these young guys struggle, I think to myself, hey, Derek Carr struggled. Go back to 0-10 for you, Derek. What was going through your mind when you were a dominant college guy and you didn't win a game initially?
Man, it was one of the hardest things I've had to deal with. Obviously in my life, football-wise, everything that my wife and I had been through with our oldest boy, made football easy though. So it was easy for me to deal with. It was easy for me to just be myself because I knew that everything we had dealt with off the field was way harder than this. And so I think that's what kept me grounded. I think that's what kept me working hard and kept my head down. Now don't get me wrong, it was hard to come to work. 0-8. 0-9, 0-10. It was tough, but I knew that my character was being developed, and so that when we, did have success, and I say when because I believed that it was going to happen, that we would be able to handle it then too.
You talk about your family situation. Much of my audience may not know what you've gone through. Could you give our audience a peek into your personal life there?
Absolutely. So my senior year, before the first game, we had our first son, Dallas. We have two boys now, but we had our first son, Dallas, and he was born early, and we thank God for that because the doctor said if he wasn't, he wouldn't have made it. And he had some intestinal malrotation deal that was cutting off blood flow in his body, and it was a mess. But long story short is he ended up having to have 3 surgeries, but now he's well, he's healthy. And we're very blessed to have him, man. He's awesome.
There is something. We had your brother on the show, and he's like, my brother's competitive nature is different than mine, and that he would dunk on my kids if he had to in a game, and it was really funny as he came on our show and laughed about it. Where do you think that was developed, Derek?
To be completely honest, it was from watching Kobe Bryant. I watched every YouTube video. I watched everything. When I was growing up, I sought out. I wanted to know who I thought was the most competitive. I said I want to watch who I think is the most competitive person, to walk this earth. In my view, obviously when I was little, and I want to emulate that competitiveness, and I want to be like that. And when I would listen to him talk, and when I listened to him play, and when I think that he had that little, deal Spike Lee did with him where he followed it. He was mic'd up for that game, and I just listened to him communicate. I fell in love, with that drive, with that determination, that work ethic when no one's looking. Being up at 3 a.m. to get your lift in if you have to. Things like that. And to be completely honest, that's where it came from.
You are very comfortable being a leader. One of the things that jumped out to me 2 years ago was how engaged you were emotionally on the sidelines, in the huddle. And not everybody's like that. That's just kind of a personality thing. When you came into this league and you had some veteran players around you, do you think any of those veteran guys thought, holy moly, this kid's going a million miles an hour? Who is this kid? Were there ever uncomfortable moments with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely, no one ever said anything because, you're the quarterback, and, we had a great group of guys, to be honest. My first year, even though we weren't winning, we had a great group of guys that encouraged the heck out of me. They believed in me, C. Wood, and Justin Tuck, and, Woodley, and, all these guys, man, that just had my back, and they encouraged me. Nick Roach is another one who's a great professional, great human being. And, those guys would just have my back, and Donald Penn would encourage me and those things. So they would see me bouncing off the walls, and they would. I mean, I'd get stuff all the time from people like, this is the week 15 and you're loving practice. We're not going to the playoffs, and I didn't care. I love football and I love competing, and I just wanted to create a culture where we loved what we were doing, and our guys, obviously they bought in, man, and we've been having fun since.
Derek Carr, bye this week. Texans in Mexico City on Monday Night Football, November 21st. Jack Del Rio, week 1 against the Saints. He's like, all right, we're going to go for it. We're going to go for 2. And I remember sitting at home thinking, Jack, slow down, reel it back in. So take me to that moment. Were you surprised Jack Del Rio, your coach, said, let's go for it?
Yeah, so, I wasn't surprised because he told me before the drive even started. He said, him and I always come up to each other, in any 2-minute situation or 4-minute situation, and him and I have to be on the same page. We have to make sure that we're leading the team the right way. So I walk up to him. I was like, all right, what are we thinking? Even though I know the situation, him and I need to communicate about it. And he looked at me, and said, hey, you're going to lead us down the field. We're going to go score this touchdown, and when we do, we're going to go for 2. And I said, okay, yes, sir. And I walked off and went back to, my guys on the sideline. So it was more of a, here's the order from the head man, and yes, sir, go make it happen. And, that's just the way it worked.
Tom Brady, to this day, and people will laugh about it, that he still thinks about being passed up by all those NFL teams, and it drives him. It gives him a little chip on his shoulder. Aaron Rodgers has talked about that. So every team in the NFL passed you up. Do you still think about that?
Absolutely. I don't know if I would, if I'd be human if I didn't, I definitely think about it. And, I make fun of our guys all the time. I said they passed on me too. My own team did, and I get on Khalil all the time. I said both of our names were on the board, but they decided to pick you. And, we have a lot of fun with it, but it's definitely something that drives me, in my off season when I'm working out. I honestly don't think about it during the season or like when I'm playing a team that I thought I was going to go to, but during the offseason, it's definitely something that drives me.
Derek Carr, Raider quarterback. For all the young quarterbacks coming out, Deshaun Watson for Clemson's probably going to be a top pick next year, and there's a kid at Notre Dame and a talented young guy at Louisville. There's a lot of young, good quarterbacks out there, Derek. What is the biggest adjustment college to pro?
The mental side of the game. It's the blitzes, it's the scheme, it's the way they set their pass rush up. Even when they don't blitz, they're going to rush you because they know where you like to flush. They're going to rush you and make you think one thing. They're going to send their best pass rusher a certain way to make you flush one way, and there's 2 dudes waiting for you. The defensive coordinators and defensive players are so smart that they're going to bait you into throws. The young guys are going to throw some picks that you're going to scratch your head about, but they're going to bait you. They're going to do anything they can. You got guys like Earl Thomas, that hide behind linebackers when you're under center, so you can't really see them. And they try and hide from you. And they do that. They try and squeeze down to where you're like, are they playing with 10? Is this a mistake? And you end up throwing a ball to them. It's real life out there, man. It gets real out there. But they'll be all right. These coaches on offense are pretty good too.
When you go into a game, Derek Carr of the Raiders, when you go into a game, how many sets and how many plays? Because you're still a pretty young quarterback. Will you go in with 8 sets and 32 plays? I mean, how big is the volume?
Oh man, we've got a lot of stuff in because we have a very smart group. My rookie year, because I've loved this game and I've known football since I was little. Everyone always joked that I had been in the NFL for 12 years before I even got there because I was following my brother around. So we go into it with everything that we got, and it's nice and it's cool because I thank my brother for that. It doesn't limit me now because he invested time in me at an early age. And, it's so nice to have because I know there's a lot of young guys out there that, maybe they do hold some stuff back because, they have to, and that makes sense, because it's so much to learn. But, we've been blessed, man, to where we don't have to hold anything back.
Well, I know you love Kobe, but the Lakers, he no longer plays for them, and the Lakers look like they're pretty good. So are you a Laker fan?
Absolutely. And I root for our guys here, in Oakland. I root for the Warriors. I hope that they do well in those things. But I'm a Laker fan, man. That's where it started for me.
Derek, absolute pleasure. Continued success. You're a tremendous story. Good luck to your family as well, Derek. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. God bless.
All 3 hours of The Herd are always streaming on the Herd channel on the iHeartRadio app.
As I've said before in the show, I'm not an Aaron Rodgers hater. I'm just not an Aaron Rodgers apologist, which everybody else in the American sports media has been for the last 5 years. Some are now coming to my side of the table, which is, let's just not apologize. Some of this is on him. Now, I think Green Bay's wide receivers aren't as talented. Perhaps the scheme by Mike McCarthy isn't fitting the average personnel, but some of this is Aaron's not as efficient. This was Greg Cosell Thursday on our show, again, being very honest what the film says about Aaron Rodgers.
They don't really have a stable run game. And while Rodgers' numbers are good, at the end of the day, he's not playing very consistently either. This game, there were receivers open that he missed. This is an offense that really has no consistent run game and a very week-to-week passing game. Last week, there were receivers open against the Colts.
And he didn't hit them. Some of this is Aaron. And again, Greg Cosell knows more than you do, and he knows more than I do. Okay, so he was the first guy. He did it last year and the year before. Listen to this quote. This was last year, and then I'm going to follow it with a statistic that's very, very interesting.
The reality is when you watch Aaron Rodgers, and it takes nothing away from his performances over the years, but he's not truly a rhythm player, Colin. He's kind of an offbeat player, an off-rhythm player. He's more like a jazz beat. He's a second reaction player. And very often there are throws that are there within the rhythm of the play and the timing of the play, and he doesn't make those throws. Now, he might move around and then make another throw, but there are times against really good defenses where that doesn't work. It's tough to be consistent that way against higher-level defenses.
Okay, so let's go look at higher-level defenses. Here is Aaron Rodgers' last 6 games against top 10 defenses. 0-6, 81 passer rating, 9 TDs, 5 picks. There were receivers open against the Colts, is what Greg Cosell said. Not a hater, but I'm not an apologist. I'm not local media. I don't need Green Bay to get a number. Okay? I don't work at the Milwaukee Journal-Gazette, whatever. Okay? I'm not a local radio show tied to a Ford dealer that'll drop its advertising unless I wave a pom-pom. Last 6 top 10 defenses, he doesn't have a win. He's completing 58% of his throws. Now, some of that's lack of dynamic wide receivers. Some of it could be scheme. Some of it's Aaron. Amazing. Put the pom-pom down for a couple of minutes. All the real answers come out.
This is the Herd Podcast.
USC and Washington is the best college football game this week. Chris Peterson is negotiating a 10-year contract with Washington. He's not going anywhere. He is not a ladder climber. He's like Mike Krzyzewski at Duke. He's like Mark Few at Gonzaga. He's not a ladder climber. He's got a lake house. That's all he wants. He's trying to get big upgrades for his coaching staff to get raises. Chris Peterson's not going anywhere. This is the funny thing about coaches. Everybody's always trying to find the great coach, the next Harbaugh. And I get it in the NFL because it's strictly a business. But if you look at college football, in the Pac-12 in the last decade, including interim coaches, just think about this. Last 10 years in the Pac-12, they've had 34 head coaches. In the SEC, since Steve Spurrier arrived, they've had 77. The key in this game in college, find a good coach and make him very good with a support staff. Because there's almost no Belichick's and no Sabans and no Harbaughs out there. Get a good, and if you get your act together upstairs in operations, you can take good to very good. It's what Dallas has done to Jason Garrett. Good coach. They've drafted well. No chaos. They've been patient. They found Dak Prescott. Now he's very good. Everybody's hunting for Harbaugh. In the NFL, I get it. But in college, think about this. Generally in the history, my history of watching college football, you've only had at any one time 2 great coaches in a conference. In the Big Ten, they called it the 10-year war in the 70s. It was Bo and Woody. Then Woody got canned. And then in the Big 8 for years and years, it was Osborne and Switzer. Everybody else was trying to find the next great coach. And in the Pac-10 for years, it was like Don James, maybe Terry Donahue at UCLA. Everybody else is bouncing around. I mean, look at all the movement in college sports, especially among football programs. It's just a carousel of new guys. Find a good coach, because there's very few great ones out there. Peterson's really, really good. Find a good coach. Stop looking at everybody else. Make sure you have a good athletic director. You have good facilities. Pay him well. Pay his staff well. And make that good coach very good. And you're going to end up for a 10, 12-year period at the top of your conference. Because there's so much instability in college football. Right now in the SEC, it's Nick Saban, and everybody else is 6 games from firing their coach. It's Nick Saban, maybe Kevin Sumlin, and everybody else is like, better win next week. Les Miles and Mark Richt were winning 10 a year. Get him a better coordinator. That's a lot of wins in the SEC. It's a lot of wins. Mike Lombardi was on earlier, and I asked him, if you were a general manager, who would you hire?
College, for me, is better to find a guy because I'm obsessed with getting a head coach. And the one thing college guys are head coaches. They're not managers. They're leaders. They lead men. If you're a team and you're Jacksonville and you need to build a program, go hire a good young college coach. He'll learn the pro game, but you get a program, you get a philosophy, you get an organization that understands it, and he can coach the entire team. Chris Peterson would be the first guy you call. There's a guy right there. Now, he has no pro experience. He's built a program at Boise. He built a program at Washington.
Yeah, it's funny. Adam Gase, never been a head coach. Doug Peterson, never been a head coach. Ben McAdoo, never been a head coach. I mean, it's amazing. In the NFL, the best coach league, you're hiring guys a lot of times, they've never been a head coach. They've never been a head coach. I mean, isn't it amazing? Like, even in college, I would struggle not hiring a guy who's never been a head coach. I would do it occasionally in college, depending on the situation, because you may not be able to find a great head coach. But, there is so much instability in football coaching in this country at the college level. Just go find a good coach. That's why I said about USC. Like I said, go give it to Clay Helton. I said, now the key is with Clay Helton. Can you get him a great offensive coordinator? Can you get him this? Can you get him that? But if you stay with him, I mean, listen, they were awful to start. And this weekend will tell us a lot. But, man, everybody wants to get this and the star coach. Man, there are so few great coaches. Everybody wants the great coach. Get a good one and support him like crazy. And then if you do, watch everybody else fire their coach or their coaches move on. It's a carousel, man. Last decade, Pac-12's had 34 coaches. 34. SEC's had 77 since Steve Spurrier arrived. A little patience.
Catch the Herd from noon to 3 Eastern on iHeartRadio and FS1.
So Jordan Clarkson, Lakers last night down 19 and won by 10. That just doesn't happen a year ago. Jordan Clarkson compared Kobe to an ex-girlfriend. He said the Lakers have moved on. But, when I watch the Lakers now, it really is kind of fascinating to watch what's happening. That there are certain people that are really driven and really talented, but they're kind of a life suck. They just suck the energy out of the room. Melo does this. James Harden, Dwight Howard, Kobe Bryant last year. Watching the Lakers right now, like, you couldn't play the way they're playing now with Kobe. The ball movement's incredible. You just couldn't do it. Kobe wouldn't allow you to do it. And as talented as he is, Carmelo doesn't allow you to do it. Basketball, because you only got 12 guys and only about 8 play. One guy who is needy, one guy with the wrong energy sucks the life out of the team. To watch the Lakers play now, it's a completely different style with all the same guys. I mean, Luol Deng's not playing that much. I mean, it's the same roster full of young guys. They look like a totally different team. On the TNT last night, Shaq and Kenny Smith and the guys started talking about it.
You know what I like about watching them? The ball movement.
Oh, the ball movement.
Ball movement is pretty good. They don't have one guy dominating the ball.
Yeah, that's Luke.
Moving the ball, everybody getting involved. And you're right, Kenny, they do play hard.
I didn't know they had that much depth. I thought last year, when they went to their bench, it was inexperienced and it wasn't cohesive. They're going to be in the hunt. There's going to be a 35, 36-win season, not a 20-win season.
I don't know if that's true. But what I know, though, is when you watch them play with all the same players, except like a Luol Deng, 18 minutes a night Mozgov. When you watch them play, that style wasn't even available to them last year due to Kobe. It just wasn't available. And it's like they're so much happier. When you watch them play, like they're having so much fun.
Don't you think this can be a 40-win team and a playoff team this year, Colin?
They don't play a lot of defense. They don't have – Luol Deng's their best defender. They just – listen, Mike Dunleavy told me something years ago. Maybe you're right. He said something years ago. He goes, listen, if you play hard in the NBA, and the Lakers are young, so they got good legs. They can do those back-to-backs. They're fine. And they're deep. I mean, they got like 9 guys now playing. If Mike Dunleavy always said, you can get to 500 in this league with a good attitude and play your arse off. He goes, you're facing a lot of teams on back-to-backs. And he goes, when you're an average team, you don't get everybody's best punch. Like the Warriors get everybody's best game. LeBron gets everybody's best game. Ali got everybody's best fight. The Patriots get everybody's best punch. The Lakers don't. And Dunleavy used to tell me, he goes, listen, if you're an average team, you're going to get 15, 20 teams on back-to-backs, maybe tired, got into town late, you're at home. And he goes, if you just play hard, you'll be in. He goes, now, the good teams on the road, when you go on the road with an average team against a great team, you're going to get beat. He goes, but if you can win most of those home games and you just give the effort, he goes, it's remarkable in this league. It's a long league. Guys are getting in town at 3 a.m. off a flight, 4-hour sleep, shoot around. You can win games on effort. And in the playoffs, you can't. Regular season, you can win a lot of games on effort.
You talk about how the Clippers have a veteran team, so obviously they're going to do well early. This is a team incorporating Mozgov, Dang, the rookie Ingram. They're going to be very good by the All-Star break. I'm bullish, Colin. I think they can go to the playoffs. Have you looked at the Western Conference standings? I mean, there's a lot of – Minnesota's really bad so far. Thibodeau's the coach, they got the young roster. They're not ready yet, but it feels like the Lakers could sneak in 7-8 seed.
Do we have the Chris Broussard talking about that? The depth. Now, Minnesota's players are better at the top.
Yeah.
But I'll say this about the Lakers. They've got a lot of similarly athletic young players, like your Nance and your Clarkson and your Russell. Randall looks like a different player this year. Lou Williams off the bench. So it's a fun watch. But it does show you sometimes there are players. Jay Cutler's had this. They kind of suck the life out of the room, even though they're arguably the most talented guy in the room.